We have nothing to do today in Africa than to unite Africa and to take ourselves forward. But before I continue speaking something here, I would like to let you know the title of this message. It is called The Law of Imperialism. It is very important that we make mention of it because imperialism had affected our history. And it is the effect of imperialism that the project of African unity is here to try to eradicate so we can escape from the pain. Let me simply make it short in a way you can understand it. The world has been going through imperialist forces from stage to stage, and all of them had effect in the history of the world up till now. There is something we have ignored. Most of us do not take into account that the spiritual world know about imperialism. They are very much part of the decisions that allows imperialist powers to function to a certain degree. And within that is established a law that governs every imperialist power in the world history. And that law states that every imperialist power has control over its imperialist establishments until the era of that imperialism. In other words, the imperialist power is like they own you up to the end of that imperialism. And this is the reason why most things, as we see today, has not been going well, because we are still under the spell of imperialism. The first stage had ended, now came the era of neocolonialism, which is also part of imperialism that I'm speaking about. So the law states that imperialist power controls their imperialist establishment right up till the end. So today we are speaking about an African unity, which will help us to bring an end to that imperialist dominion. And this is the reason we are told to unite and transform Africa using the collective energy and resources of the people without depending on the sitting government. And why shouldn't the government get involved? Because of this very thing I'm talking about. The imperialist power still controls our African government because it is their establishment, and they will keep on controlling it until the end, which fortunately is now coming. And because the government are controlled by those imperialist power, those offices are infected, those presidential seats are infected by the power of imperialism. So if you bring African governments as they are today to come and get involved, they will now bring the same imperialist spirit and come into it. That is why, and it is not going to be effective as we want, because the same confusions of imperialist power will infect the new federation, and from there we cannot move as clearly as we should. So we are told to build a new Africa using the power of its people. In other words, the presidents, the ministers, all of us are part of the project, but nobody is coming with the power or as a representative of his national government. To give a simple clarification of this very message, the imperialist powers controls us, and they have the power from the spiritual world. And the spiritual world also decide when they will end. And that end has been decreed. It is ending now. Like Kwame Nkrumah once said that neocolonialism is the last stage of imperialism. In other words, he was insinuating that the end of neocolonialism will be the period when Africa will get its total liberation. That tells you that the imperialist power controls what goes on in Africa. Actually, the imperialist power started. The neocolonial era started immediately after getting independence.